Okay, welcome. I'm Leah Markey. I'm the director of the Center for Renaissance Studies here at the Newberry, and we're honored to host what feels like a historic symposium devoted to Philippine lives under early Spanish rule. In my brief remarks, I wish to read our land acknowledgement and thank everyone involved. So as part of our commitment to addressing the ongoing legacies of dispossession and settler colonialism, as well as our relationships with the city, the land, and the environment, the Newberry Library has written the following land acknowledgement. Located near the confluence of several waterways, the Newberry Library sits on land that intersects with the ancestral homelands of several tribal nations, the Anishinaabe, the Potawatomi, the Odawa, Ojibwa nations, the Illinois Confederation, the Peoria and Kaskaskia nations, and the Maya, Wea, Ho-Chunk, Sauk, and Meskwaki nations. The Menominee, Kickapoo, Mascoutin nations also call the region of Northeast Illinois home. Indigenous people continue to live in this area and celebrate their traditional teachings and lifeways. Today, Chicago is home to one of the largest urban Indigenous communities in the United States, and this land remains an important place for Indigenous peoples. As a Chicago institution, it's the Newberry's responsibility to acknowledge this historical context and build reciprocal relationships with the tribal nations on whose land we are situated. So the Newberry Library has a long history of partnering with tribal communities to promote Indigenous studies from an Indigenous perspective. The library remains committed to continuing that legacy by educating its users about the history of dispossession and settler colonialism. So now I just have a few thank yous. First of all, I want to thank everybody who traveled here from far and wide, especially those of you who came from the Philippines. We're so honored to have you here today. And then I would love to thank our organizers of this symposium, and I'm going to ask them to stand. Nicholas Tsai, who first planted the seed and really made sure this happened. Miguel Martinez, Ricardo Padron, who contributed great insights and planning throughout. And then finally, Christina Lee, who truly made it possible and found funding from Princeton University's Humanities Council. We must also thank the Philippines Consulate of Chicago, and particularly Ella Karina Mitra and Mary Joy Duran Mortel. And finally, thanks to our symposium coordinator, Izzy Villanueva, who's here from UC Davis, and all of our Newberry staff, Chris Fletcher, Dylan Bingham, Nora Epstein, and especially Will Hansen and Analu Lopez, who you'll hear from shortly. So thanks to everybody, and I will pass this on to Christina, who will be chairing the first session.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much to Leah and the Newberry team for organizing this event. I'd also like to recognize Izzy, who's come here all the way from California, and she's been also working on this for many months now. I'm Christina Lee. I'm a professor at Princeton University, where I've taught for the last 18 years, and I have the privilege of moderating the first roundtable. Now, all four of our panelists are extremely accomplished, so I will apologize in advance for the hyper-abbreviated and shameless biographies of each of our panelists. Will Hansen is Roger and Julie Bascus Vice President for Collections and Library Services and Curator of Americana at the Newberry Library. Mr. Hansen has published articles on Herman Melville, active learning with primary source materials, archives of born digital materials, library services for Indigenous studies, and other topics. His curated exhibitions at the Newberry include Hamilton, The History Behind the Musical in 2017, Melville, Finding America at Sea, Viva la Libertad, Latin American and the Age of Revolutions, Indigenous Portraits Unbound, and Native Pop. Analu Maria Lopez is the Air Librarian and Assistant Curator of American Indian and Indigenous Studies at the Newberry Library. She has published articles on Indigenous librarianship, archival history, active learning with primary source materials, among other topics. Her co-curated exhibitions at the Newberry include What is the Midwest and Indigenous Chicago? She's also the co-director of a project by the same name, centering on indigenous voices and gesturing towards indigenous futures. Regalado Trota Jose, who's also known as Ricky Jose, is the chair of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. In 1999, he was recognized by the Cultural Center of the Philippines as one of the 100 Filipinos who helped build the Filipino nation through art and culture during the last 100 years. Mr. Jose served as a faculty member in the graduate program of Cultural Heritage Studies at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila for 21 years, concluding his tenure in 2021. He's internationally recognized, especially for his role as a head archivist of the university's 400-year-old archives, a position he held from 2010 to 2021. Finally, we will have Victorino Manalo. Ino Manalo is the chair of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or the NCCA, the Philippines' de facto Ministry of Culture. He also heads the National Archives of the Philippines. He studied at the University of the Philippines, Columbia University, and Hong Kong University. He's the 3-time recipient of the Carlos Palanca Award for Literature. So now we will proceed to listen to 3 very brief presentations and leave about, I think it's going to be about 20 to 25 minutes for questions. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. As Christina said, my name is Will Hansen. Thank you all for being here. We really are honored and delighted to have this confluence of scholars, students, learners about the Philippines and the Philippine collections here at the Newberry in particular. It really feels like a special occasion, and we've been thinking about something like this for a very long time at the Newberry, and my thanks to Leah and the team in the Center for Renaissance Studies for pulling it together, along with the collaborators who have helped this happen, so thank you all. Analu and I are just going to very briefly touch on what the Philippine collections at the Newberry are, how people use them, and hopefully touch particularly on some of the ways in which they're being used and grown today. So we're going to really gallop through this, but the point is to leave plenty of time for questions. If you haven't been to the Newberry before, what is the Newberry? Where are you right now? The Newberry is an independent research library focused on the humanities. We've been here for over 130 years. It is a non-circulating closed-text library. We collect primary sources, manuscripts, rare books, photographs, those kinds of things in the humanities disciplines, and have been doing that for a very long time. We receive no governmental funding for our operations, for our ongoing operations. We are run by donations and our endowment. If you remember nothing else that I say today, remember that this is your library. You are welcome here. We are open to the public. Anyone over 14 years old or in the 9th grade can use our collections, can sit down with them, turn the pages, touch the items in our reading rooms. Nothing leaves the building. You can't check it out, but you can come and use these materials, and you can also take photos of any of them. So please do remember that. Please do sign up for a reader's card and use the library here if you are interested. What do we do here? We do lots here. We host about 4,000 researchers a year using our reading rooms. We host over that number of students in collection presentations every year where we show materials and introduce them to the collections. You're looking here at a group from the Philippines Consulate here in Chicago. If there are folks from the consulate here, hi again. This is a group that came in 2023 to see items from our Philippines collections. We work with lots of classes, community groups, independent scholars, teachers, really anyone with a research interest. So don't feel like if you're not in the middle of a research project, you can't come in and use the library. You are welcome to do so as long as you're interested. What does the Newberry have? We have something like 1.5 million books. We have hundreds of thousands of maps. Our curator of map tells me this is an underestimate. It's probably closer to 1 million. We have a huge range of materials in the subjects you're seeing on the screen here today, from family history and local history to your early European manuscripts to one of the world's largest postcard collections, records of railroad companies, lots of things in between. What we're focusing on today is our Indigenous Studies collections, our American Indian and Indigenous Studies collections, which is one of the largest such collections in the world, focused on the indigenous peoples of the Americas, the Philippines, and Hawaii. So that context for our Philippines collection is here. This collection was founded in 1911 by the donation of a man named Edward Ayer, who was a lumber magnate. He made his fortune selling railroad ties to the railroads as they were expanding across the United States. And he expended a lot of that fortune on rare books, manuscripts, artifacts related to the indigenous peoples of the Americas. He donated his collection of rare books, manuscripts, and artworks on paper to the Newberry in 1911. And it is, as I said, one of the world's great collections focused on indigenous studies in the Americas. So he began by focusing specifically on the Americas, North, Central, and South America. And its territories at the time, which was the late 19th century. Things changed in 1898. As Leah was saying when she read the land acknowledgement, acknowledging the sort of legacy of settler colonialism and the dispossession it entails is part of what we do here at the Newberry. And Edward Ayer's collection is pretty explicitly part of that. The story goes that when he heard the news of Admiral Dewey entering Manila Bay in 1898, I think it was May 1st, he sent telegrams out to his book agents around the world saying, get me what you got on the Philippines. He essentially expanded his collecting range to include the indigenous people of the Philippines because he believed that the US was going to sort of occupy and take over the Philippines. So he expanded it to include the indigenous people sort of under the administrative control of the United States. He did so very aggressively and pretty quickly built one of the largest collections related to the Philippines and particularly indigenous peoples and languages of the Philippines in the world by the first decade of the 20th century. He acquired many of his manuscripts from the vast collection of the Compañía General de Tabacos de Filipinas in Barcelona. They had built a massive library. W.E. Ratana, one of the great Filipino, great bibliographers of the Philippines, he wasn't himself Filipino, helped catalog and build that collection. And a lot of it came here, including our Rizal manuscripts, probably the materials from the Philippines that we're best known for. We have continued to build the collection and grow the collection in years past, though. Not everything we have and not everything you'll see. Hopefully you come to the collection presentation at 2:30. Not everything you see there came from Ayer himself. We have acquired material over the last century as well, and the collection keeps building to this day. You can see some of the strengths of the collection here, particularly strong for the Spanish colonial period that we're talking about today, and the activities of Christian missions in the Philippines during that time. Also, as I said, very well known for Filipino nationalism and the Filipino Revolution, language materials, and maps. But given the topic of this roundtable, we want to highlight some of the recent work with the collections. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Ana Lu now to start talking about that.
Okay, thank you, Will. And also, I just want to echo what all my colleagues said. I welcome everyone. I'm really excited about when I heard that this was being organized, and I said, great, we can get more visibility on the Filipino collections as well that we have. So today, I'm going to be even briefer than Will, because I know we have like 10 minutes that we're sharing. So I wanted to focus really on what's known as internally, it's like the Dean Worcester collection, but what we title also the Ethnographic Philippine Photographs Collection. Really briefly, just talk about this, and then also I'm going to be highlighting at the end a collaboration that we did with Dr. Ricardo Punzalan, who helped to get us to digitize this collection finally. Okay, so what you're seeing here is what the collection of the photographs looks like in our Stacks building. So as you can see, there are hundreds of boxes. I think it's over like 200 or so, 8,000 total in the collection. So for those of you who may or may not know, these are early 20th century ethnographic photographs created and collected by Dean Worcester, who was known as like a professor, right, a zoologist. He had an interest in the Philippines, had a very close relationship with Edward Ayer. We do have some correspondence related to their relationship and the acquisition of these photographs in particular. So when I started in 2017, I remember, get my usual onboarding. They let us know, Will walked me through the stacks, and we learned like the 101 and how to access material in the collection, how to connect researchers with materials. And quickly, when I heard about this collection, I'm like, wow, it's really challenging to access it in a way because there wasn't a finding aid, there wasn't an inventory. They were cataloged, but there's not like an item level inventory or list for them. So you couldn't really discover them online anywhere like you can now. So in 2018, we decided to create an inventory and then make a finding aid, what we have here. So even before we made this finding aid, people were already asking for to access the collection, right? So they could access it at any time. It's just a matter of knowing what was in there, right? So it was, if we go back to this picture, the only real way that you can access it was if you, and know what's in there, is if you checked out this 5-volume index, and then you would have to locate and in the text what the image is described as, and then request it manually, essentially, right? So a couple barriers to access, just time consuming. So when we launched this in 2018, it became a little easier for researchers. They can now request them online. It gets, you can keyword search if you're looking for particular photographs. So I remember early on when we launched this, even before, someone was asking for the Word document and we shared it with them, and they were able to keyword search. They were doing research regarding, I think, ricine or something like that, and they were really excited that they were able to find it really quickly. So flash forward 2 years later, I meet Ricky at a conference, and we just happened to attend the same workshop, and we sit next to each other. And he finds out I work here, and when we're introducing each other, and he very quickly says, I was hoping he was going to be here because I was going to call him out, but he quickly says, wait, where do you work and what do you do? And then he's like, okay, we have to be friends, right? So then we started talking, and he proposed a project where we could digitize the collection, and we finally were able to do that thanks to him in 2023. And then finally did the funding in 2023, and then the digitization actually happened and completed in 2024. So now they all are available online for access. And then there's also at the bottom point where I said there's a potential that we're going to do a collaborative project in the future. We're still talking about that, on how Ricky does a lot of research on this, on reuniting, right, all the photographs and negatives that are in different repositories. So there's that also talk in the works. So I'm not going to read all the stats for you. It's very long, but I'm going to summarize them for you. So thanks to Jennifer Dalzin, which is the director of our digital initiatives department, she sent Will and I and a few of us the stats on the first year when people were accessing the online photographs. And in summary, she said, this report, it said, in short, your data indicates that you are doing an excellent job of attracting new users from the Philippines. The high number of engaged sessions per active user shows that these visitors are having a meaningful experience and are likely to return for at least one or more engaged visit. The main area for potential growth is converting these engaged users into long-term returning users, right? So I think that's all to say that because of this online inventory and then digitizing, it's been able to get us a far further reach for people that aren't just here in the States or local, but also in the Philippines. And Will and I, we can attest to that we've gotten quite a few requests. They kind of come in waves where we get a lot of people that are asking about particular photographs, which Will and I usually, we're just happy to point them that they can download them now and they access them online. So let me read it to you. So I did actually leave this here. Okay, it says engage sessions. Excuse me. The number of engaged sessions, which is 389, is almost double the number of active users. An engaged session is a meaningful visit where a user spends at least 10 seconds on the site. views 2 or more pages, or completes a conversion event. This shows that the sessions are not just quick visits, but are providing value to the user. So I guess it means that they're actually staying and looking through each page or photograph. So, okay, and finally, this year, we did publish this article within the Newberry magazine, the summer 2025 magazine. You can download it online on the digital database of the Newberry, and it's Ricky and myself and another colleague, Allison. We just kind of gave you the history, kind of what Will talked about, and then a little bit juicier details of the relationship between Ayer and Worcester. Actually, it tells you word for word through Ayer that relationship and how he came about to acquire the collections here at the Newberry. And then we talked through this project that I mentioned that we embarked on with Dr. Ricardo Punzalan. So I recommend, we can share this with you later, but you can also download it online. Okay, and then I'm kicking it back to my colleague, Will.
One thing that we wanted to mention is just to highlight the fact that this collection grows and lives. This is one example of that. There are other examples. We have a couple of wonderful community members here in Chicago who love to donate material to the collection, and we love it when that happens. One example in particular shows how important a collection like this is to a diasporic community like Philippines, and to everyone else who can benefit from that. So in 2023, we were contacted by Genevieve Castro, who was a preschool teacher from the Philippines working in Chicago Public Schools International Teacher Program. She built and donated a collection of over 100 children's and young adult books published in the Philippines, focused on Filipino history, folklore, song, and languages. Over a dozen indigenous languages of the Philippines are represented. And we quickly got this cataloged. We got this collection cataloged, and when I told her it was cataloged, I just want to quote her response because I think it highlights how important archives, libraries, and cultural heritage are to these communities and to all of us. She said, "Thank you so much for these exciting updates. I'm so thrilled to hear that the books are now accessible at the Newberry Library. All of my friends whom I informed about this news are filled with so much joy and gratitude. Please spare me if I say thank you over and over again, but I cannot really thank you enough for being an instrument in providing a wonderful home to these cherished pieces of Filipino heritage. Thank you." And we have thanked Genevieve just as effusively, and thank you all as well for being part of this as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ricky Jose, and I'm the chair of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. And thank you for inviting me here and sharing my experience with archives. Christine Lee specifically requested me to talk about my work, my previous work with the University of Santo Tomas Archives. I was archivist for 11 years. And now my work with the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. I have two slides to show what we do with archives in the University of Santo Tomas, and then the rest will be with the National Historical Commission. So when I was first offered the job as archivist of the University of Santo Tomas, I thought, with the school archive, what's so important about that? But then when I examined the collection, there is a large percentage of documents from the 17th century. You know, the UST was founded in 1611, and so we have documents from that time and a bit earlier. So it's quite, even in the Philippines, it's quite an impressive collection for the study of the 17th century Philippines. When I got there, we were able to put up the cases for the books, for the materials. I have them in archival boxes, raised from the floor. And then we started to invite other people to come and see the collection. So gradually we had students from different schools and universities coming to see. Like here we have on the left side, we have people from Ateneo. And hopefully the young people from the universities will get more interested with archives and also learning the Spanish language, which is very important for using these archives. I met Hobie C in one of the trips to to the university archives. And one of our functions is also to share our um, experience in handling archives and research with other communities all over the country. Here we have on the lower part, on the left side, on the right side, sorry, an outreach program with the island of Sikihor. Um, and I'm showing them the what's interesting in these books because in the Philippines you can see there's a great fear of studying Spanish, which I'm very disappointed, and it's so hard. That is the condition in the Philippines now, and so that's one obstacle that we are trying to overcome, so that the young Filipinos will get a better grasp of their history. So I had to show all these communities how important it is to preserve these books and what kind of knowledge can you get from these books. So I was poring over the baptismal books, and they were very interested in that. So slowly, the bishops and the parish priests are getting interested in the work that we do. Um, in many parts of the Philippines, there's still many archives of the Spanish period that have been preserved, but since they are all in Spanish, they occupy the lowest level of the cabinets where they are exposed to vermin, cockroaches, molds, weight of the books, deplorable situation. So it's getting to be improved, but still it's too slow. Uh, so the Catholic Bishops of Conference of the Philippines established a Society of Ecclesiastical Archivists of the Philippines in year 2000. And then 2 years later, there was an important meeting of these ecclesiastical archivists in Cebu. It's a mix of young and old people, as you can expect. Unfortunately, many people got sick, many people got old, and as usual, this kind of mushroom societies disappear, only to appear again after a stormy day. So it was revived a few years ago, and we had a summit last year at the University of Santo Tomas, where you see so many sponsors to hold this program. But for me, as a working archivist, again, many people still do not know how to read Spanish. So what's the use of all these archivists conference if they cannot read Spanish? Anyway, it's a happy problem. So now since last year, I'm the chair of the National Historical Commission, and I'm also finding out that many people cannot read Spanish in the Historical Commission, so which is another tragedy. So I have a lot of friends who come over to see me, and I try to have them meet our young researchers. So we had Roberto Blanco Andres come over earlier this year, and I had a merienda with him and our young history researchers, just to break the ice between researchers, full-blooded professionals, and our young people. We've been having this exposition, Histo-X, History to Experience. It's a happy brainchild of the younger people in the commission. It's an exposition in a mall where we have many booths to attract young people. This is largely young people who come over here. We had a booth from the National Archives of the Philippines. We had a booth from the Latter-day Saints to show genealogy concepts. We had archives. We had lectures on genealogy and also paleography. So this was held last year, and this year it was a much bigger crowd, and it's so hard to negotiate through the crowds. It was so popular. And so next year, we will have another one in a bigger venue. We were so thrilled with the response of the young people here. So this is one way of encouraging the young people to come, soft sell history and archives to the young people. My last slide. You know that the Philippines is the land of, it's the most dangerous place to live, considering earthquakes, volcanoes, typhoons. So just end of last month, we had a major earthquake in Cebu, and we issued a commission advisory on the handling of loose materials. The churches in Cebu have a lot of archival materials, and I've handled some of them. And so 2 days after the earthquake, we went to the province to examine them and to help extend our help. And so we continue to help them. After the week after this, another earthquake occurred affecting Mindanao, and so we also sent a similar advisory. And so we are quite busy these days handling disasters of not just architecture but also the archival material held in these places. Yeah, I'm leaving here just to so we can have a more discussions after this. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Sorry, one last slide. I forgot this. Since we are with the commission, we have a major project to handle Muslim history in the Philippines, which is a largely neglected part of our history. So we are working towards 2030 to have a major project on Muslim Philippine history. And so recently we sent a scholar, Ruhola Alonto, to London. He met Dr. Christina Juan over there. And he was a native of Marawi in Mindanao. And he was so excited to find photographs of his great-grandfather here, and then also maps from his region. And he just talked to me last week and said, you know, the response of his relatives upon seeing this relative, they were shocked. He's so dark, he's so short, he doesn't look like us, you know. So there's already a divide between their generation and the present generation and this generation of photographs. So this is one kind of repatriation of new knowledge that will shock people into what their roots are. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ina Manalo from the National Archives. I'm here to talk also about what the National Archives is doing to popularize history with the youth, no? And just popularize working with archival material among the youth. Here's the outline of my introduction. Before I begin, I just want to share with you some data about the National Archives. Our oldest records date to the 16th century, and we have about 65 million records. It includes records up to the early years of the post Second World War Republic. And of these 18 million or so, 18 million pages of records are in Spanish, our Spanish collection. This includes maps, plans, and all kinds of other material. In preparation, for this conference, we undertook a review of our 16th century records. We were aware that we had about 3,000 pages of 16th century records, and we found out that many of these were actually Xerox copies and printed books and all kinds of things. So of the 3,000 plus pages of 16th century records, we found out that we had only 3 record series and that there were around 640 pages of records from the 16th century. Practically all of which are copies from the early, we don't have the originals from the 16th century. What I've done, as inspired by Christina Juan, is we've transcribed all the records, and they're here with me. So you might want to look at them later. But it's still initial transcription. We just barely were able to finish it. Just like the NHCP, we're studying Spanish and studying Spanish paleography, and we as sponsored by the Mexican and the Spanish embassies. So we've been doing guided tours. The thing we've been actually one of the biggest things that we're doing to popularize the archives, no, is to do exhibits. No, we've developed a technique for exhibiting that's very low budget and low technology. It's all manual technology. We don't really use videos and the like, no. And we've trained youth guides to be guides for these exhibits. One of the techniques we've used is that we have copies of the records. I mean, facsimiles of the records that we hold, and we include them in our exhibits. I'm so sorry. No, I'm a bit. I'm feeling strange, but anyway, I'll soldier on. um, so anyway, um, this record is very interesting. It's from our Mindanao records, and so it was only found about 2-3 years ago when we finally opened a section of our archives, which were never opened in the past. And this record on the right, you know, is an illustration. What's interesting about it is that it has two different forms of Philippine domestic architecture. One of them is a cave, and the other one is thank you, and the other one is a tree. There's a tree house. So this is a 19th century record, but you can see that the old adage or the whole idea that Filipinos lived in trees is still popularized in images like this, no? And there's the record about this image, and it's reproduced in facsimile form so that people can actually handle it, and sometimes we're able to supply translations. We also use large-scale images, and very often one of the things that we learned is that from our interviewing our audiences, they say that sometimes they like the way the records look so much that they want to enter it. They want to enter the record. So what we've done is we've cut up records. I mean, blow ups of records. We've cut them up so people can actually wander around the record itself. No? And so we blow things up, and people react differently when they see a whole facade of a church that's blown up for them to examine. No? We also make dramatic art. We ask artists to play with our records, and here's one that was used in the Cofradia Kapatiran exhibit of one of the rebel leaders, but also the community's religious leader, Hermano Pule, no? And it blends the idea of Hermano Pule and how his head was displayed after he was executed by the Spanish, how his head was displayed in a kind of cage, and it blends it with Christian images. We also do 3D recreations. This is one of our most beautiful records that was also discovered when we opened up our formerly prohibited section that was prohibited by previous directors. I'm not sure why. And here you can really see the idea of the Spanish quadricola imposed on a wild Philippine landscape, no, with a cross right in the middle of the church. And we reproduce it in 3 dimensions, and many of our audiences express their delight over such things. And then we create things that are useful for again, no, this theater that we found a record of a theater in Manila, and we reproduced the images, the costumes that were used. And so the idea, still continue with the idea of getting into the record. We did this image of the facade of a church, almost life size, and there were windows that can be opened to go in further into the record. And again, we do our best to have what you call this selfie ready um, images, no? And we also did a foosball. What do you call this again? Foosball? Foosball. Yeah. This was the idea of one of our younger, just like Ricky, we let them do what when they let them, we give full rein to their creativity. And they came up with this using the images from our records. And I'm not quite sure is it a good idea? I mean, because they might think that people were playing foosball in the 19th century. But anyway, so there it is. And the young people seem to enjoy it. We've finally started we've started a program where we go to the universities and do exhibits there rather than them asking them to come to us. So finally, we are also now embarking. We've started the process, no, and we've been able to upload about 10,000 images of just images, no, taken from books, from magazines, everything, just images, because that's really what people come to us to look for, images, no. And the thing is, we use printed sources so that we can ascribe a date to it. So here they are, and we provide all the metadata. My last slide, I just want to talk about our newest project on what is this, on the heritage churches of the Philippines. And this one is the Church of Miagao. San Ildefonso ba? San Santo Tomas de Villanueva. No? So this is in Iloilo. And what we've done is we've asked a group, we put together a group to write biographies of the church, no, the history of the church, and then the story of the church from the point of view of world heritage. A third volume will be history of the church from the point of view of the community, and then a mythic or cosmological biography of the church. So we have, in other words, we're covering all the different lives of the church, and with these essays that have been produced, one of them was by Ricky Jose, he's our country's most eminent scholar on church history and church architecture and art. He wrote the portion on the history of the church, no? And from these materials, we will be producing teachers' modules, and finally a puppet show and a children's book. I'm sorry. And we've recently declared certain churches as World Heritage and as a national heritage or national cultural treasures. And we've been having youth workshops with young people on the importance of these churches, and in the end, we asked them um, to help us work on another candidate for declaration as national treasure. This is the relieve or the carving of Mary Magdalene from the Church of Pililia in the same diocese. And we're asking the young people to help us frame the statements of significance as part of the workshop output. So these are, again, some of the things we're doing to promote the archives. And And so far, we have received some positive results. In fact, that's the reason we did the image bank, because after interviewing young people after the exhibit, they all say that that what they really want to see are images, not so much the documents, but the images. So we've now come up with an image bank. Finally, I'm happy to say that we were been able to put online some of our records. Now on the we're now working on the section on the record series of erecciones, and so far I'm proud to say we've been able to upload letters A to B. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're so honored to have both the Minister of Culture and the Arts and also the Minister of Historical Heritage will be essentially that in other countries. I have a lot of questions, but we're running out of time, and we only have 10 minutes. I'm sorry. I think even less. Yeah. So please, I'll give you the opportunity to ask questions. If you can stand up, say your name, that'd be very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you to the speakers. My question is if I
Who
really...
are you? Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Jody Blanco. I'm from University of California, San Diego. And my question is, it's really exciting to have, members of the Newberry Library and also members of these national commissions of culture and history from the Philippines at the same table and speaking with each other. I'm wondering if you've talked about or if you imagine in the future some kinds of longer-term partnerships between the Newberry Library and the Philippines, which would either facilitate researchers and scholars coming to the Newberry Library, or which would facilitate access to documents and materials of Newberry Library in the Philippines, or it would concern language training or historical recovery, the different kinds of ways in which the presence of the Newberry Library could actually benefit and inspire people in the Philippines to study the history and actually benefit from the resource that it has accumulated here, and vice versa, to also find a way for the Philippines to sort of make its presence really felt at the Newberry Library in and around the collection. Thank you.
Well, I guess we can start, although I think it's more important for us to hear from our colleagues here. I can say that we would love that. We're very interested in partnering in whatever way we can with organizations in the Philippines to help expand our reach with these collections to the people who care about them most, which inevitably are the people in the Philippines. We obviously think of ourselves as a great resource for, as I said, the Filipino diaspora as well in the US and other places, but it's very important to us, I think, to acknowledge that these resources should be shared with people in the Philippines whenever possible. The project that Analu talked about with Ricky Punzalan to bring these images to people in the Philippines, those with internet access, great, and those who don't have internet access, Ricky's actually working to get them images there. He's like taking laptops and and showing images there to provide, helps us to provide better information about these photographs here. Hopefully helps them connect to their heritage in the way that our colleagues here were talking about. So we love that. We have had partnerships with organizations in the Philippines before. We'd love to work with the folks in the Philippines to help provide more access in whatever way would be most useful.
Since your question was if the archives has made arrangements with Newberry Library to do projects together, the short answer is no. Yeah. But we would certainly, as was indicated earlier, we would certainly be willing to do it, be very interested. But I'd like to actually focus on something uh, where we draw out stories and images that can be used. Now, for example, in the last conference we had in SOAS with that was organized by the two Christinas, I read a short document that we found on the report of one of of a Franciscan priest. In fact, I think the head of the Franciscans, right, making a report about Spanish boats and Chinese sampans penetrating deeply into the Laguna de Bai, the Great Lake of Laguna outside Manila. And when I told this story to these young people that I work with in this town of artists called Angono in Rizal, they said that what they would be interested in doing was to make paintings, to imagine how these historical events actually might have looked like. So that's where that I'd like to be taken that direction, maybe even with the Newberry collection. If there's something there that where we can draw out stories and paint and subjects for paintings and do a workshop with that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And of course, I've only been a year with the National Historical Commission, so and before that, I was more of a scholar than an administrator. So now I'm in a special position to work with libraries like you, and we definitely will continue working with you and other institutions. Actually, after this, we are going to Michigan to meet Ricky Punsalan for another conference on repatriation.
Hello, my name is Ruben Salazar, and I represent the Filipino American National Historical Society based in Seattle, as well as the Filipino American Historical Society, Chicago. So thank you very much. This is a very good way of talking about our archives in the Philippines as well as here in the United States. So I have two-part questions. For us in America, we do have a lot of history as well, and we do have a lot of archives. Our history in the US dates back all the way in 1587 when the first Filipino actually landed in Morro Bay in California. So I know we have a lot of archivists from different parts of the country, and we're just starting to get our archives collection in place. We're not there yet the way Newberry has done with their archives, as well as the Philippines, which has a lot of archives that are available. And so we need help, and if anyone is interested in helping our society, please contact me. So that's the first part of the question. The second part is, I know you guys are talking about archives in the Philippines and archives in Newberry Library that are related to the history and culture of the Philippines way back in the beginning, the Spanish regime. But I met a lot of young Filipino Americans who are now very interested in learning about the history and culture of the Philippines. So I'd like to find out if you can make those archive collections that are already online available also to the students, to the young people here in the United States who never had Filipino history or Filipino American history in their education. So they're looking and trying to find more about the history and culture of their families, their lolos, their lolas, and where they came from, and more about why is the Philippines have history with Spain and with the US, which they never learn in their school here in America. Thank you.
Okay, so hold on. Okay, so part of what we do here too at the library, and I can speak for just personal experience, like part of my role here is to also do like hosting of groups in high school to graduate students to undergraduate students to community members. I think Will very briefly mentioned that or in one of his slides on the types of work that's done here. And one of my favorite things to do in the role that I'm in is hosting these groups that come in and get them access to their histories, to the collections, to materials that they've never heard of. So I think over the years I've thought of like how can we do it with the Philippine collection where we can work closely more to host the groups on site where they can actually, and we do host like the consulate and other groups, and then for other parts of the collection, like I'll host tribal members from different tribes, people from around the world. But things that I've thought of over the years is like how can we do a more like hosting a Filipino Historical Society or Filipino community members to come in and look at these more, especially high school. High school, some of my favorite groups to work with are high schoolers and freshmen in college. I think those are very crucial moments in education as well, when you're going from like high school to undergrad, and it's a very different cultural shift, right, when you're going from high school to university. So I love that idea of also working more and how can we do it. Fortunately, we have something here where we can facilitate those types of visits at the library.
Yeah, anyone, Ricky, were you going
I
to say
I just add that apart from since accessibility and connectivity is very strong here in the U.S., then the young people have more chances to access archives, I think more than in the Philippines, ironically. And having said that, the sources for Philippine material are not just in the US, but also in Spain. So do one step further for the young people here to go examine the online resources in Spain. There's a lot and much more now than when we were younger. So a lot of photographs are also available in the Spanish archives online and maps as well. So visual and textual materials are available for the young people all over.
Hi, I'm Geraldine Tinio, and I am from Purdue, and I'm the Asian American Studies and Latin American Latino Studies librarian. And I just like to follow up about like the Filipino Americans. Purdue has one of the largest, like a huge Philippine student organization, and I think they like the students there would be super interested in learning about what's in the collections. And I wonder, and I guess there's like prohibitive things for this, but like traveling collection, like a traveling exhibit, just like in the Midwest would be kind of cool to just, in maybe libraries or something. I'm like, I wonder if that would be a possibility to like bring some things to Purdue to, I don't know, get students, and a lot of them are from California actually, and like, all over. So like, again, the idea of this diaspora here, like it would be really cool to have a mini exhibit traveling. And that would be a really great way to get people involved. Is that a possibility?
So I can say from the Newberry's perspective, a lot of the kinds of things that you're going to see in the room at 2:30, we have digitized. So a traveling exhibit of original materials is a logistical challenge. But a traveling exhibit of really nice, high quality facsimiles and images of things, I think, is a distinct possibility. And it might be a way that our institutions can sort of partner on something like that to bring collections from the Philippines together with the collections here in the US and travel to institutions around the Midwest.
Would you be interested in the fuzzball exhibit? Yeah. Yeah, well, it's very workable now because we can send you facsimiles and you can print them out. We can set up the exhibit can already be laid out, and you would print them out and
Yeah, I think to maximize that, we have to work with the film organizations and then the consulates and the embassies and the schools so that there will be a program to really bring people to these exhibitions. Otherwise, if people come just informally, we won't get as much audience as we want. But I think there's be a lot of legwork to organize people to come into these exhibitions.
One last thing I'll add too is that there are a lot of terrible things about COVID, but the one thing that we got good out of it was virtual. And that's something that we offer too. And though it's very different from in-person stuff, like when students are on site or if we're on site, what I do like doing is kind of like these introduction virtual visits where like if you are meeting a group for the first time, even if they're local, national, or even international, we've worked with people where we can do like these, what you're gonna see at 2:30, like collection presentations where we're showing material virtually. So that's also like a possibility if we have to figure out logistics for like maybe a future in-person or something.
Okay, we are out of time, so we're gonna stop. But before that, I'm sorry if I'm sort of self-promoting, but tomorrow we have a panel with Christina Juan, the other Christina, or I'm the other Christina, she's the Christina, and Nicolas C. And we're gonna be talking about our digital humanities projects. Christina Juan has been really leading a number of digital humanities projects that have to do with sort of these, kind of building platforms where people can go and see where the Philippines objects are, or music is a lot of material. And so, if you can make it tomorrow, that'd be great. And by the way, all these projects are open source. Thank you. So we're going to take a break.
Yeah, we have coffee for you in the back and tea, and at around 2:30, maybe a little later,
One last answer to one of the questions, many of the questions the question that many of you asked me earlier. Yes, my shirt is, the fabric of my shirt is from the Philippines.
It's important to know. That's beautiful. So around 2:30, 2:40, we're going to take groups of about 25 at a time to look at the materials, and then we'll swap you out. We can only do, because of the size of the room and the rare materials, and be sure to wash your hands before you go, but you'll be able to touch the materials. So thanks so much.